up, everybody? I'm Blessed and Free. Welcome back to another episode of DOC TV. So you guys already know, man, I bring people on that have been to prison to share their story. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the people watching, man? What's your name and where you're from?
My name is Christopher Smith. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, and I served 12 and a half years on a wrongful conviction. Wrongful conviction. I was originally given 28 years back in 2008 from a case that happened in 2007, a robbery. And it took them 12 and a half years to finally overturn my conviction and ultimately release me. I was released from prison April 14th of 2020.
Damn, bro, I didn't know that. All right, well, that kind of changes the narrative here.
Yeah, for sure.
For a lot of people, you know, man, like normal people that aren't in the system, a lot of people don't even believe that wrongful conviction shit goes on. But as we know from being in there, it does. And obviously, you know about it. Why don't you go ahead and explain to the people like how all that went down?
Like I said, my name is Christopher Smith. My PKA, meaning professionally known as Old Hound, OLHOUND. I'm a hip hop artist. And so at the time I was, coming back and forth between California and Ohio. I was, signed under Warner Brothers as an artist. So in 2007, October 17th, while I was in Cincinnati, my truck was involved in a robbery, which, I never really drove this truck. I let a buddy of mine use it. He went and robbed a Cincinnati Bell cell phone store. The truck was found near the scene, along with a costume that the robber wore, which was a wig, mask, and sunglasses. So the authorities reached out to me and was like, yo, your truck was involved in a robbery. Who was driving your truck? I was like, do your job. Because at this time I'm 24, 25 years old. I'm a rapper. So I'm thinking about my credibility. I can't help the police, I can't be labeled as a snitch because, that's real big in the hip hop community and just where I grew up at. So I was like, yo, do your jobs. And now let me make clear, I was on probation already for weapons under disability because I did have a prior conviction for something that I did do. So I was on probation. My parole officer is getting at me. She like, yo, they got this wig, this mask, sunglasses. I'm like, okay, run the test and then, y'all have y'all got. So time went on and they still had this tunnel vision with me because, I wasn't cooperating, things like that. So the DNA results come back to ultimately Charles Allen and excluded me. So Charles Allen couldn't be excluded. They like, yo, like what's going on? They still haven't arrested this guy. So he gets immunity, to fast forward, gets immunity to say that he was the driver and I was the robber. And the reason his DNA was on it because he handed me the costume. So I went to a bench trial. And you very rare go to see a trial where the defense, brings evidence that ultimately prove your innocence. All we got to raise is the doubt, right? My case, we had DNA evidence, we had 26 fingerprint lifts, and also recordings of Charles Allen admitting that he was the robber and I wasn't involved. But a bench trial, what the difference between a bench trial and a jury trial is, bench trial, the judge is the fact finder. And, I waived my jury right. So the judge had all his evidence and he was able to say, yeah, okay, Christopher, you got lucky that your skin sloughage didn't shed. And Charles Allen testified that his is on there because he handed you the costume. Now with DNA evidence comes lab notes. And what lab notes is, it's percentage and it's like points of where they tested. So they tested all these items with wearing inside the wig, inside the sunglasses, inside the mask, which always excluded me. With these lab notes, it shows the percentage, meaning I couldn't even have been around it. And this guy, Charles Allen, couldn't be excluded 1.3, 0.44 million or something like that. So these lab notes was hidden from my trial. They wasn't turned over. So once I was convicted, given 28 years, sentenced, my first appeal, appellate attorney didn't raise the Brady violation, meaning withholding the evidence, the lab notes. So it took me longer to get back.
How did that day go down, man, when you ended up, taking the 28 years? Like, a lot of people watching will never know what that's like. What was it like, man?
It's like you kind of thinking like this can't be happening. Like, hold up, wait, like,
cut.
Especially for something you didn't do, and just like the evidence, the overwhelming evidence, and just everything we had, and to be like, hear the words guilty, and then saying 10, 5, 8, 3, get him out my face. I was like, yo, this can't be life. So many different things was going through my head. They took me in custody, took me down to the bullpen, the holding cell, and gave me a bag lunch that consists of a bologna sandwich, 2 cookies, and an orange. And I just took off my shirt. I had on a button-up shirt. And I remember wrapping that shirt around my neck, and was like 28 years. And, so without a suicide came through, because I was like, what is going on here? But I was just like, you know what? I got to fight. I got to continue to keep fighting, and the truth is going to set me free. And at this time, I had a good support system. And, I had 2 children that was 7 years old, and then a 7-month-old. So I just had so much to fight for. And so at that moment, I had to become selfless. It had to become more than me in order for me to like endure this situation, because I knew it was going to be a fight.
All right. So you take 28 years, obviously. Was that state or feds that picked up the case? State?
Yeah, it was state.
All right. Yeah. So you went to prison in Ohio. What was the first camp that you landed at, or do they call them camps out there?
No, they actually call them prisons. They don't call them camps until you get your security level dropped to go to a camp. So I started at close security, meaning it's like a step lower than maximum security. And you have a cellie and you have tiers. I was in Warren Correctional, which was kind of like one of the newer prisons here in Ohio. So the conditions of Warren was cool. I mean, the cells weren't big enough for a cellmate. Of course, many of them aren't.
So they were one-man cells?
No, I had a bunkie, a cellmate. So it was 2-man cells. And it's like these cells like aren't even big enough for just one person, let alone 2. So you could kind of imagine those conditions. But Warren was pretty, like, out of all the prisons here in Ohio, Warren is probably like one of the best ones, because like I say, it's one of the newer ones. And they have more officers from cities, and that's a big thing, that a lot of these institutions and a lot of prisons hire people that's out of touch with the city. So if your prison population is dominated by people that's coming from the inner cities, and you having correctional officers and all type of staff that's from the country, it's a disconnect from the jump. Yeah, and I think that's one of the major problems with the whole rehabilitation process. That's why so many people leave prison worse than they was when they came in, because it's a lot of built up resentment, a lot of bitterness, and you just like get this hate. And so you just like, it's like, as an African-American man, prison could make you feel a way towards, white people. Yeah. For people other than your race, because of the way that you're treated. And
when you say that, you're saying treated by the correctional officers and the prison staff?
Yeah, by the whole correctional officers, the staff, the case managers aren't there to help you. It's rare to find a case manager that's going to be your case manager and that's going to help you adjust, help you stay connected with your family. Mental health is a joke. And
a lot of those COs, man, are still on that old, like, that old school attaboy system, you know what I mean? Like that hillbilly system.
Yeah.
That's how it is in Florida. It sounds like it's like that everywhere though, really.
Yeah, and it's because it's just the whole train, and it's just the way these institutions was built. And so that's why a prison in Ohio would be similar to a prison in Florida, you know, because it's not where you at, it's just the structure of it. The whole hiring processes and everything, because I mean, it's called the Department of Corrections, or Department of Rehabilitations, you know, so it's like, what is the rehabilitation process? What do that really mean? And so with me being there for 12 and a half years for something that I didn't do, I knew in order to get to it, it had to become more than prison for me. It had to become a college. Like, I let my situation light this fire in me, and that's what I'm doing while I'm a free man today is, you know, I'm an advocate for wrongful conviction, of course, prison reform, sentencing, and just everything. So I'm in the trenches for it because of what I endured, because I took their best shot, because I started at a close, but I ended up leaving from a maximum security, which was single man cell. And just like, we need to probably have this conversation, Doc, like a couple times for me to just break down and talk about some of the things that I've seen, been through, and that's continuing to go on today.
Do you think from all the experiences you had in prison that you have PTSD from that?
Yeah, for sure. I take a PTSD class once a week. You have to have it, especially when you've done the amount of time that I have and being in the system from such a young age. You have to learn how to deal with it, especially if you're coming out here, adjust and adapt to what society is today. Yeah. So you have to kind of like accept that what you've been through. And a lot of us, even me at one point, was in denial, like, oh, I'm not one of them type inmates that this affected mentally. Like, I'm okay, I don't need it. And then one day I woke up and I was just like so discouraged with just society, life, and everything. And was like, oh, I can't do this no more. Like, with me coming home and starting and building up my own company and just walking the right way. Them things come out of you. And I knew it, in order for me to continue to evolve and continue to grow, I have to embrace the PTSD that comes with it, the depression, to kind of like deal with situations that you kind of sweep under the rug and don't want to deal with while you're incarcerated.
What would you say were the biggest factors when you were in prison that contributed significantly to your PTSD?
Just doing the same thing every single day, just being in this box, for having people in charge of your life that don't value you or see you as a human being, and that kind of like condition you to be like, you're an animal, you don't belong into society. You know what I mean? And it's just, you just go through that and you just take this like mental abuse. It's more mental than physical. You know, they kind of like, when I first went in, the physical abuse was happening from the guards. You seen guards jumping on inmates for, oh, who you getting smart with, boy, and hitting you upside the head with a PR stick, spraying you with cans of OC spray, which is mace. And so it's just this, it's more of a mental thing now because they cracking down on that. So yeah, so now it's mentally, like, you're nothing, no, you'll be back. Get in there and we taking your wreck, and it's just all these things that, you know, that you just hold inside and that you suppress. And you can only suppress to a certain amount of time until it explodes.
So how was it in Ohio's prisons that you were in, as far as like violence, gangs? Like, what is expected as far as like how the politics are ran in Ohio?
See, it's been a lot of budget cuts here in Ohio. And with them budget cuts came the education, the programming, and things of that nature. So once you eliminate all that, all you got is idle time. And if you got idle time, you got idle minds. So, and the guys that's coming in now were younger. The inmates are coming in younger now, and they starting the younger guys at level 4s and making them do a tier system. So you got 18, 19-year-olds that's still kids for real, with a whole bunch of idle time. So it's idle mind. So yeah, they're going to join gangs. So yes, the gang violence, the gang culture has grown. You have people that need to belong to something, so they join these gangs. And so with gangs, is going to come violence, like flexing their muscles, like this is our camp, this is our prison, this is our. So you have that, and the staff don't care. The staff is just there to contribute to the oppression and to do they aid and hit the gate. So it's no rehabilitation in it. It's a warehouse now. There's no reentry programs or nothing. It's a war zone, and it's applied even by the staff. And that's why a lot of, how you think the cell phones and the drugs and the materials for the shanks of getting into prisons. Yeah. The visitors ain't bringing, I mean, the most a visitor could do is bring you in
a bomb,
gram or two in a balloon.
Yeah.
But you talking about ounces of meth, ounces of heroin. You could get fentanyl and everything. Where is it coming from? So prison is big business and everybody want a part of it. That's the reality of it.
When you were in prison, man, what would you say? I mean, obviously being wrongly convicted is the worst experience, but as far as when you got, went into prison to left, what was one of the worst experiences that you went through in there?
Of course, my mother passed. And, my mother was my best friend, right? And my mother was still young, 53 years old when she passed in 2012. And my mom getting sick and me being just so helpless. Like it was nothing I could really do, right? And just trying to wrestle to get a hold of the phone and spend time with my mom, because we knew my mom was gonna pass 2 weeks before she passed because she couldn't do dialysis no more. So that was one of the hardest things, man. And not being able to go to her funeral, being at her funeral from a jail phone, and guys on the upper tier making noise on purpose so the phones could get shut off, because they knew I was at my mom's funeral, and so me having to wrestle with that and the phones get disconnected and me having to go beg the officer to turn the phone on. Like, my mom died and well, so what? Holler at your buddies. So that was one of the worst things for me to deal with. And of course, missing my children grow up. When I came in, my two oldest was 7 years old and my youngest was 7 months. I came home, my kids was 19. My son was married with the son itself, so I was a grandfather and everything.
Damn.
So, yeah, so it's just missing that time that you can't get back. No amount of money, compensation could make up for that.
How was it for you when you got out, adjusting back into society and figuring out what you were going to do with your life?
I came back out here on a mission, because if I came out here any other way, then every single last day of that 12 and a half years would have been in vain. Everything I done lost, all the people I done lost, would have been in vain if I would have came out here just to be like, now what I'm gonna do, they would have won. So what I did even before I came home is I started preparing, because I didn't know when I was gonna come home, but I knew eventually I was gonna come home. It's like I came home with a sense of responsibility for the guys that I left behind, a lot of brothers that I made in there. And I needed to be their voice for so many people that I knew that was in prison for something that they didn't commit. I knew I had to come out here and really fight for them, and just bring awareness to it. So I didn't come out here bitter. What I did was start getting with current officers and former officers and start including them into my show, The Solution. And so we've been sitting down together, and coming together. People that was had the key to my life, to myself. And so I had to come out here and do this so I wouldn't be full of resentment, so I wouldn't be bitter. And we sitting down and trying to come up with a realistic solution to make these institutions better. And so we need to understand these officers. How are you trained? Who were you before you came to work in these institutions and things like that? So this type of work that I'm doing is what gives me peace every day. And it's a journey. I take it a day at a time. But I came out here with a chip on my shoulder, but not a chip on my shoulder to be like, oh, y'all owe me something, but a chip on my shoulder like, we got to fix this broken system.
Yeah, that's the chip on the shoulder you want, man.
Yeah, you got to be a good chip. If it's a negative chip, then you're going to end up back. It's going to be everything that they tried to tell you were or condition you to be.
You and your girl got a social media thing. Do you want to give the people that are watching right now an opportunity to, where they can find you to check you out?
Yeah, for sure. We got, well, of course, you can find me on every major platform, Facebook, Instagram, Apple, Amazon, Old Hound, OLHOUND. It's my Facebook handle, as well as Instagram is The Real Old Hound.
I'll put the links in the description so that way they just click it and it'll take it right there, man.
And my lovely partner, my wife, one who was with me.
How you doing?
Nice to meet you.
In there is, who helped me stay on course, who helped me just be optimistic and gave me something to look forward to. We have a show together. It's called The Solution Live, both on Facebook and Instagram. And what we do is tackle the social injustice, just social issues, coming up together as a community to figure out a realistic solution. And we just talk about real issues. We keep it real. We talk about, how, what helps our relationship and what helped us get over, a lot of things that we go through and been through. It's a dope show, a fun show. We offer information from finances to legal, political.
You guys doing it all, man.
Yeah, The Solution Live, man. And it's growing, and eventually we're looking to become an official podcast, which we're working on now. So I'm
going to drop the links in the description of this video. So if you guys want to go check out his social media, by all means, go do that. If, like I said in the beginning, if you're new and you're tuning in for the first time, man, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn your post notifications on all. So every time I drop an episode, you can hear it first. And with that, it's DOC TV, and we're out.